It's truly a delight to be here. Almost exactly a year from when we launched Trov in Australia. And it has been a monster year. I've been doing startups for 30 years, and this one feels like the rocket ship that the other ones weren't. And just so grateful to be able to talk about this year and what we've been learning. So hopefully I'll get to some stuff that I hope is quite practical. So this year, we've launched in 2 countries, Australia and in the United Kingdom. Our partner in Australia is Suncorp. Our partner in the United Kingdom is AXA. We established Trov Insurance Services as an MGA in the United States in anticipation of us launching in the second quarter or third quarter of this year in a few of those states, and we're excited about how that's progressing. We more than doubled the number of employees. I think when we were here last year, we were about 40. We're now at about 100. That mix is about 67 of them, maybe 70 as of today, are in engineering, product development, product management, product design. So our core DNA is engineering. We don't take balance sheet risks, so we aren't considered an insurer, but we bring a rich set of technologies and capabilities to the insurance industry. We secured a global primary underwriting partnership with Munich Re. Note, primary and Munich Re in the same sentence probably doesn't make a lot of sense. However, Munich Re became our underwriting partner in the United States, and then with this latest round of Series D that we raised about a month ago, they extended their relationship with us to include Pan-Europe, Pan-Asia, and South Africa. They're taking the balance sheet risk. They're helping us to front the paper, although we design the paper with them. I'll explain that in a little bit how that works. We also, during that same period of time, worked with Sompo, the second largest P&C insurer in Japan, who asked us to allow them or to partner with us to bring Trov to Japan next year. We're excited about that relationship. That is actually a 3-way partnership with Sompo, Trov, and Munich Re. We added 2 entirely new lines of business. So you know us today as a B2C play, a pure Trov brand, beginning to end consumer play, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit later about some additional work that we're doing in the B2B2C and the B2B play. And we raised a bunch of money. You've probably heard about that. We're punching way above our weight and are glad to take advantage of the capital markets during a time when our growth demands it. So you know us, Trov is really a rich set of technologies, a bunch of microservices that support on-demand, micro-duration, unbundled or single-item coverages. It's a platform, really, a bunch of technologies atop of which applications are built. Our application that you know of is the Trov app. Like I said, an end-to-end experience that is always Trov, from user engagement all the way through filing a claim, and even our partners using our technologies to adjudicate that claim. The Trov app helps people collect the information, the rich metadata about the things that they own, and eventually just the things that they use. And then it supports this unique engagement model that allows folks to choose just the things that they want to protect, and with a single swipe, turn on protection or get a quote, a daily quote, a monthly quote. We actually price risk to the second. So users who turn on protection can utilize that protection on that particular item for whatever length of time they want, and if they'd like, they can turn it off. And we bill and we collect on the application. We bill gross written premium, and we share a portion of that with our underwriting partners. Like I said, we've launched in Australia and the United Kingdom. This line of business, the Trov application, is growing geographically. This year, we are launching we hope to be in all 50 states by the end of the year. My hunch is we'll probably be in about 2/3 of those by the end of the year, and then the rest of them in the first quarter of 2018. On tap in 2018 are Japan, Canada, Germany. And then as far as we can see all the way throughout 2021, we'll be clearly in the top 10 insurance markets, if not more, with our partnerships. Now, that's really interesting learning for us was our first two partnerships, Australia and the United Kingdom, with great partners, Suncorp and AXA respectively. They have a primary brand. They have their own processes and regulatory authorities and legal processes and such. And so each time we could have expanded ourselves geographically because, first of all, why geographic expansion like this so rapidly? Well, because these are small risks, and the more we need to layer TAM on top of TAM, total addressable market on total addressable market to get terrific scale. So that if we had gone to each separate market, each individual territory, and to find a primary carrier there, it creates a great deal of friction in scale. We have to educate that partner, we have to go through their processes and then introduce them to the way that we do things, and of course build the paper with each of them. Having a single partner in Munich Re globally gives us this terrific ability for us to be global rapidly. We have a single partner who understands what we're attempting to do and gives us the ability to scale efficiently. So we've been in the market for a year. We're one of the first, I think we are the first global insurtech, whatever that means. It just means that we're in a couple of countries with some interesting insurance engagements. And generally what happens is people will say, well, how's it going? And this is the first audience to which I'm gonna actually talk about how it's going. I won't talk about everything. I've excluded absolute numbers in here, so everything you're gonna be seeing is in percentages and such. But this is my sort of general answers. Here's a few metrics to understand what we're doing. One really interesting metric is that we're growing gross written premium at 44%, very predictably month over month. People are engaging in the application. They love what they're doing. We have an NPS of 51 right out of the gate. We are constantly turning, so we're on like I said, we're a technology company. Our back end turns every 2 weeks and the front end app turns every month, meaning we have numerous teams that are addressing what we're seeing in the marketplace, how we're seeing consumers use our product, and we're applying these learnings to the technologies that support them. We're excited about this. We think this growth is sustainable. We think it's sustainable because of how we're engaging consumers. You'll see a little bit more about that in a minute, what we're doing to address some of their needs and their concerns. We're growing categorically. Today, we're only protecting consumer electronics and photography, and we'll be adding more categories. That's a big desire of our users, and you'll see more about that in a minute. And also because we're layering, as I said, large markets atop this year and following years. We think this is sustainable, if not even faster paced. Okay, one of the big questions that we had, now look, on-demand single item microduration. No one has that data. That doesn't exist. So we come to this with our insurance partners and their actuaries, wondering, like, how do we model it? How are people going to be engaged in this thing when you have a corpus of data with zero information in it? On-demand, microduration, single item. So one of the questions that we had going in was, are people actually going to turn on and turn off insurance? And there's a greater distillation of this data, but generally speaking, we're seeing greater than 80% month-over-month retention. Now, that doesn't mean that everybody is leaving on their insurance for every month. However, what we are seeing is a much greater indication that two things. One, the psychic advantage of being able to turn off your insurance. Remember, we are targeting the emerging cohort of user who lives their life on a smart computer in their pocket, the millennial, the Gen Z, whatever you might want to call them, the folks whose zeitgeist is agency, they must be in control. So speaking to that core expectation that they must be able to have absolute control over the consumption of goods and services, speaking to that, they can turn it off if they want, they're not turning it off. So we think that the psychic benefit of letting them turn off and pay for only what they use down to the second. We bill and collect on their credit card on the app. Is an advantage to get them engaged. But once they're engaged, they're determining that they're not turning it off. But we think that also has to do with the categories of risk that we're covering. Number one, smartphones. Number two, maybe that's the next one now. We'll get it in just a second. Number one, smartphones. Number two, laptops, tablets, et cetera. Those are probably everyday carry kinds of things that they're not likely to turn off. We think as we introduce other categories that might have a more temporal profile of use, that we're going to start seeing it. In fact, we're seeing it with DSLRs, for example. The demographic, it doesn't surprise us at all. We've been targeting the emerging cohort of user, as we talked about. As I said, we are very pleased to see that, in fact, what we anticipated would be the kind of demand is the demand that we're seeing, with about 80% under 40 years old and the greatest cohort under 29 years old. We don't understand yet the male versus female split, and we're doing some research to figure that out. What's being protected? Mobile phones, laptops, tablets, a smattering of wearables, and we just turned on the photography category, so we're seeing that pick up pretty quickly. Headphones. And this actually speaks to something. Obviously, this is what we're targeting. This is what we're advertising to. And our digital service, our digital ads actually, and all the searching has a direct path from the digital ad all the way through to the application and deep links through landing pages on the web, and I'll talk about that advantage in a second. But also, here's the core. One of the greatest learnings for us is when you download the Trov app in a territory that in fact supports it, it automatically reads what's in your hand specifically and grabs the metadata from our rich database of information. And in your Trov is automatically loaded up the phone that you've put that on. So all the metadata about it is in there. So it literally zero friction. Our belief is that everyone will benefit from the information about the things that they own and use in their own personal cloud for things, which we call the Trov. And we can enhance that, we can speed that up, that inevitability, by reducing the friction to zero around helping people collect the information about their things. And you're gonna see how we're doing that. So that little point out that I said automatically detected, phones are automatically detected, therefore they're automatically in your face. I can just swipe to protect. I have to do nothing to add it to my Trov. The Trov experience is such that when you add something to your Trov and you protect it, you get a quote that's a daily quote, a monthly quote, and you have a slider, and the slider allows you to select the amount of deductible or excess, they call it, in the territories we've launched in. And as you slide that dynamically, the premium changes dynamically as well, and we're finding that our cohort chooses to have greater exposure on the claim side and happy to pay a higher premium. They're choosing in zero, or in the greatest cohort is 0 to 10% of excess. And we're really happy to say that as the number of users grow, we're also seeing the number of items per user increase as well. So we love that exponential effect, that as the users grow, they're actually adding more and more things to their Trovs, not just adding them, but also protecting them. So that gives you some sense of how things are going, what we're experiencing. We have a very rich analytics platform that services us every day, that we can look at every part of the funnel, every part of the engagement model, how people are using the product, et cetera. And that helps us make a lot of decisions. What I'm going to talk about now are 3 or 4 observations that we have seen and that we're responding to in product development services and processes. Now, we came to this thing last year. We said we are mobile only. We said the cohort of users, they don't care about the web so much, they want to engage only in products and services on their mobile device. We said it has to be mobile only. What we should have said is mobile first. Because watch this. When we said, hey, you're gonna download, they got really attracted to the idea, like lots and lots of traffic that are being tracked to our digital advertising and other medium for promoting our service, our product and service. We can track what happens. Watch the friction. Gosh, I really would like to protect my camera over the weekend. That sounds like a great idea. I wonder how much it costs. Watch. Download an app. Create an account. Fill out your profile. Add that thing, find it first, and then add it to your Trove. Then get a quote. Select your premium, and then turn on insurance. That's a lot of friction. And we watched our funnel in every place, and we saw it drop off significantly. So we say, let's move the dynamic. This is a super important learning for us, and you'll see the result in just a second. Let's move the dynamic of identifying who you are and what you want to protect to the web. So there's no need to download an app first. Now, engagement, later, we want people on the mobile device because that's going to get them engaged. We're going to use the smarts resident in the smartphone to remind them, to help them to process claims, what have you. So what happens now is digital ad that's completely targeted. You're a photographer. It then goes to a landing page on Trove that are all designed specifically for the targeted capability, the targeted market that we're going after, in fact, for photography. It goes directly to, and then this is all dynamically generated, all the most common gear that people are protecting in Troves, it's automatically then filtered up to the web, and you can use those to say, that's the thing I want to protect. That creates a persistent search. It then gives you exactly the kind of item that you have. You click on that. You fill out a couple of Mad Libs. I'm a 50-something-year-old male, and I live in some such and such, what have you, and using that information, we send it up to now listen, this is cool. I told you that we're both an app and a platform. The platform has all these microservices that are leveraged by the application. It took us 27 man-years to build that all out. It took us 4 months to build out the web interface because all we had to do is hit all those microservices that allow us to engage the same kind of capability at the web. Now, look at the result. We had a 10-time. I bet you could see exactly where we turned on the web capability. Now watch this. Now for every 100 downloads of the app, we get 77 new policies. Right. And we had nowhere near that conversion, but it's because we're sending qualified individuals into the application. Does that make sense? All right, observation number 2. Protect more things. Okay, today, as I said, it's consumer electronics and it's photography gear. Protect more things and make it ridiculously simple to Trove my things. So here's how we're responding to that. This is a look at just a little clip from our analytics funnel. You can see this, that 85% of people. Let's go down to the bottom, actually, it's easier to talk about. 62% of people who intended to protect something actually got a quote. Now watch, this is how this works. You can add anything to the Trove, and as long as it's in our catalog or a catalog to which we have a data relationship, I'm gonna have to hurry this up. As long as you have you can add some bicycle, you can add some jewelry, you can add what have you, but we may not protect it. However, we don't restrict you from still swiping right on that thing to try to protect it. We're going to go search our database to see if we can find a price, reliable metadata from which we can price it on. But generally speaking, if it's outside of the categories that we're covering today, you're not going to do it. Why do we do that? Well, we do it, one, because it gives us all the data that we need to help us surface new ways to serve our customers. Right? We may tell you, sorry, we're not protecting this, but we've recorded your desire to, so vote it up, and the more and more you do that, that's a category we're gonna take. So what that says to us is even though that 62% of the people who are actually using the app are getting satisfaction and getting a quote, but that means that about 38% is opportunity. So how are we going to address that opportunity? Well, one way to do it is we're going to expand our relationships with big metadata providers. You'll see us extend this year into jewelry, SKU jewelry, sporting equipment, musical instruments, and other major categories. But probably the most exciting piece that I think that you'll be reading about soon is that we're going to embed Trov at point of sale. So global retailers will be able to have that same capability just talked about, where we added the web service that hit our microservices. Now we're working with global retailers at many levels who are going to embed this Trove capability so that, watch, when you swipe your credit card or when you check out at that terminal, the information about what you just bought doesn't come from our database, one of our catalogs. It comes from the catalog of the merchant. We have reliable data, we have reliable pricing, and we have a reliable replacement path in case of claims. And plus, the merchant gets to take advantage of some of the goodness from that recurring revenue stream. So it's a great result for us. We're going to decrease this, and by the way, this is friction zero. This is our goal, to be able to meet the need of, make it like completely ridiculously simple to add things to your Trove, because if you don't have a Trove, you'll get an email saying your Trove is waiting and the thing you just bought is in it. Now protect it. If you do have a Trove, it already knows and it sends the data directly to your Trove. Make sense? All right. From Adams, so this is the one that says, this is number 3, and I'm at 0 now. I've probably been at 0 for a while. Let me see if I can short these up. One of the things that people are telling us is that they want to protect more things at once. Yes, it sounds great to be able to just swipe to turn on one thing, but think about your camera bag. I've got a body, I've got a few lenses, I've got some flash gear, or my backpack where I've got my laptop and my headphones or my travel gear, whatever it might be, and my golf club, whatever it is. Like, you don't want to have to turn that on and off one thing at a time. You want to be able to do this. So think what iTunes did to the music industry by atomizing the ownership of individual songs and then allowing you to, from those atoms, to rebuild playlists. This is when I go jogging. This is when I'm mad at my wife. This is when I'm, sleepless, whatever it might be. This is those playlists. Well, the same thing is going to apply to Trove this year, where we're going to have lifestyle, essentially protection lists, where you can name a grouping of items, and then with a single swipe or a voice to, they just turned off voice to Alexa, turn on my backpack, turn on my my travel gear. And then the last one, which is also the question I have, and that often is either said to me directly or written about in the press, is, will people bother? And the answer is, yep, people are bothering, but they want to be reminded. That's what they're telling us. Hey, wouldn't it be great if geofence, my smartphone, whenever I leave my house, I get reminded. Whenever I'm at an airport, I get reminded, what have you. And so we're introducing smart protection for, first of all, geolocated. Hey, you're at the airport. We're going to start with just reminding. We're going to engage them in the human interaction. Later on, you'll be able to give that over to the machine. Think Nest, human train, machine takes over later on, right? So that's cool. Now, this is the last piece. The last piece is, so that's how we're responding to what we're seeing, and it gives you a sneak peek at kind of the things that we're working on internally that we've made a great deal of progress on. I'm in overtime now, it looks like. So now, what about the insurance world? What are we hearing from our partners and from those we worked out? Well, one, there's a great deal of excitement of what we're doing. They see it as green fields. There's a corpus of data that's zero, so this is a whole bunch of new information for them. And there's a great deal of interest to see how we're progressing. Fortunately for us, maybe not so fortunately for some of our partners or potential partners, is the fact that the ability to put a balance sheet closer to the consumer risk behind the Trove brand is now gone. We've really essentially ceded that to our few partners, Sampo, and the existing partners, Munich Re and others. So then they said to us, well, since we can't do that, we love the fact that you have this microservices capability and this rich capability that's resident in your technology. Watch. Can you guys build for us applications atop your platform, microduration, on-demand, disintermediated claims, claims adjudication, fraud, blah, blah, blah. All the stuff that we own and have built. And will you build us amongst the core risks, auto, home, and small business, applications that we can brand and take to market ourselves? And so that is this year. We have several lined up that we are working on right now, auto, home, and small business. And you'll be seeing that quite shortly, probably within the next 2 quarters on the auto side, and then home and small business later on. So we're super excited about a private label business. And then lastly, the one that here's the meta-narrative, and then I'm done. The meta-narrative of this one is that life and risk really hasn't changed for 300 years, but the ability to measure life in ever smaller bits, that's what's changed. And those ever smaller bits, measuring life, measuring state change, can speak to a cloud listening, cloud services, the Trov cloud. And upon that state change can register whether that state change indicates a change in risk. And so what we've done is we said, hey, we're going to selectively expose capabilities within our microservices to other developers and operating system controllers who want to embed some of this, if you would, insurance as a service. And you'll be seeing that in some really unique ways, hopefully within the next 6 to 9 months coming about. But this is actually happening. So now we have 3 lines of business. Finally, I love this quote from author and polymath Eric Hoffer. He says, "In times of great change, learners inherit the earth, while the learned find themselves beautifully prepared for a world that no longer exists." You have to admit we are in times of great change, so let's learn together. Thanks.